Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelly. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Today is day 30 of the 31 Days of Tarot, and what that is it is a video blog sprint that is held by another YouTuber named Ethony, and every day throughout the month of January, card readers answer one question related to our craft. Today's question is, what tarot card best represents you? Now, the vlog sprint has been very liberal, where you could pull cards from oracle decks, or you could pull more than one card. But it was funny when I was first looking at the list of all the questions for the month. When I saw this question, I knew immediately what card I was going to pull. And what this tarot deck is Linestrider Tarot by Siolo Thompson, and the card that I chose is the Queen of Swords. And what it is that this deck is really incredibly beautiful. It's kind of an ink and paint kind of watercolor design, and it's interesting. I am a sun sign Libra, and I have a rising in Scorpio and a moon in Cancer, and I just kind of have this delicate balance between water and between water and air in my chart. And it's interesting. It's funny when you look at my chart. I have like a kind of an equal balance amongst everything, but in the past, anytime I would look at a Queen of Swords card, what I thought was always lovely is, even when you look at the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, the Queen of Swords always has the sword, and she tends to have curly hair, which I think is really cool, just because Rider-Waite-Smith is almost over a century old. To have that depiction, with different kind of types. I just feel like I don't see very many cards that have like curly hair, and that's kind of me. So of course I get excited when I see a pretty card. And that in this deck, all of the queens are gorgeous. Like, all of them really represent, beauty in their own way. And the Queen of Swords always gets kind of a bad reputation because she gets the moniker of being the frosty queen, right? She's the tough cookie, the mental cut you off person, right? And while all of that can be true, when you look at any of the court cards, all of the court cards can manifest in negative ways, right? So the tougher side of the Queen of Swords is, yes, she is about boundaries, and she's about verbal, verbal stance on things. She's very witty. But the other side of her character is that she is still a queen, and queens are nurturing, right? She nurtures with words. And when you look at this card, she's got so much pink in the background, which I think is so Libra. And that's something so rare, It's interesting, again, with the Rider-Waite-Smith, you see butterflies everywhere, but when you look at the card in the Rider-Waite-Smith, she looks really rigid, right? She doesn't look real soft. And the fact that I just think that she has such a wonderful expression in this card. She has curly hair, but she has soft, truthful eyes, and she has this flush of pink around her. And she does kind of, now, the Queen of Swords definitely is kind of an air card. She can be Aquarius or Gemini, but she tends to, because she carries the sword the way that Justice does, she tends to be, seen in the same light, like a judge. And what I think is lovely is that, what I think is so perfect is that when you look close at the swords, her sword has lilies on it. And what's interesting is that there is a card in Lenormand that has the lily, and the lily means wisdom. It can mean sexuality too, but normally it means wisdom. It means knowledge, and I also think that it means virtue. And the fact that she has kind of blue in the sword and pink in the background, I think she does walk a really beautiful balance between embracing her masculine side of being herself and being kind of a leader, but also being receptive the way that queens are. But what I also think is lovely about this card is that I often joke, I use my hands for everything. I write, I sew, I make cards, I scrapbook, and of course at work I type all the time. I'm a writer, and I just feel like my hands are just such a crucial part. And her hands are very uniquely shaped. They almost look a little worn out. They don't look like a hand model's hands in this picture, right? They look a little bit worn. And what I think is kind of an overlooked nuance of this card is the fact that in astrology, the hands rule Gemini and they rule communication. And actually, the symbol of a hand really does mean, a helping hand. It can mean, the friendship. I also think that it means dexterity because, humans have the opposable thumb, right? We're able to hold a pen. You're able to hold a sword. You're able to do things with your hands. And I just think, I don't know, I just feel like this card, and it's funny, I try not to, usually with my card decks, I don't really assign what we call a moniker, like I think that I'm using the right term, but where when you go through, sometimes when you get really bond with a deck, and again, if you decide to get into tarot or oracle, if you decide to purchase a deck for your own use, you tend to go through and kind of find a card that you deem as your own, that is your, that you're. I think there's a term like nomination. I want to say. I'm not thinking of the right word. If you're thinking of the right word, please comment down below. But basically, it's the card that represents you, and it's. You don't have to do that if you have a deck, but what I've noticed is that I never intentionally go into a deck or, pick up a deck thinking that I'm going to be drawn to a card or that I'm going to claim a card as being me. And then it never fails. It just calls to me. Like this one called to me. The moment and it's funny, I had purchased the deck because of other cards that I really liked. And the moment I pulled this one out, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just so perfect. And the great thing is that if you do decide or if you do bond with a card like that really speaks to you that way, when you are doing a reading for yourself or for someone else, it is amazing how I've had a few reads where I'm like, oh, who are you talking about? Or, who is that? And then she pops out. And then I'm like, oh, okay, you're talking about me. You're talking about me. And so, but the other lovely thing is that, she'll still come out in the deck, if you need the description of the Queen of Swords, when you're talking about boundaries, when you're talking about taking off masks. And that is one thing that I think is really lovely about, especially this rendition of it, is just that, you don't have to be a calculating person to expect the truth. And, that is one thing about the Queen of Swords, is that you do not come at this queen false. If you come at her false, your mask will be removed. But that doesn't have to be like a violent process. That's just somebody's boundaries, right? And you can see that, just even in her expression, again, she's still a nurturing queen. She's still a receptive and mothering figure. She just does it in a verbal way. I almost think of her as the one who encourages people the most with her words, right? But she is also the one that, I think, what is the phrase? I'd much rather have an ugly truth than a pretty lie. I think of that when I look at any of the Queen of Swords. But yeah, so I'm rambling, but thank you for listening to me ramble. But that is my favorite card, and there were several other cards that I do resonate with, but I felt like I kind of resonate with them at different times. Sometimes if I'm feeling my rising or if I'm feeling my Venus, I might see a card and be like, yeah, that's me. But this one was constant. This card was constant with me, and so I knew that was the one that I wanted to go with. But I thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear about your cards as well. Do you have a card that you feel represents you in either oracle or in tarot? Or if you don't pull cards for yourself, do you think that there's a symbol that really represents you? Like, do you have a spirit animal? Do you love foxes or cows or, reindeer? I've seen some really interesting animals. I sometimes ask my friends, okay, what animal do you like the most? And you'd be surprised. People really, really bond. They're just and what I always love about it is there's usually a story. There's usually a story behind it. So, please, if you're so inclined, please tell me your story. Please post it in a comment below. And if you are not subscribed, and if you like the content on my channel, I would be very honored if you would become a subscriber. I'm very grateful to the participants of this video blog sprint. It's been a great month. I've met so many wonderful people, and it's just been such a caring, supportive community, and I'm very grateful to be here for that. And I hope you can join me back tomorrow, because tomorrow we're wrapping it up. It is the last day. If you can come back then, it'll be the 31st day of the 31 days of tarot. And the last question in our journey, it will be, what are your tarot goals for 2020? So I hope you can join me then, and I'll see you later. Bye.